Hello and welcome back to Mindful Sojourn. I am Janie. If this is your first time joining me, thank you for being here. I hope you find something useful and inspiring in this video, and I hope you'll stick around for more. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you for your continued support. I really appreciate it. So this is part 3 in a short series showing you how to take a cereal box and turn it into a junk journal. If you missed parts 1 and 2, I will link them below. Now, today, this is the fun part. I love sewing in the signatures. So I have already prepared these. They're ready to go. I didn't do a ton of inking. I could do more, but I may just... You're supposed to do inking of the signatures before you sew them in, but it's not really that big of a deal. Besides, most of my pages that are in here are already dyed. This is a dyed paper doily. This is a printed piece of ledger paper. I had a piece of ledger paper and then I printed it on, I copied it and printed it onto just regular printer paper, and then I dyed, I inked the edges. Magazine page, book page, and this book page is, it's an older book, so it's already kind of, it looks inked, but it's just natural because it's an old book. This is antique sheet music, coffee dyed paper, and then a map page. So I could do some inking like to this page, but I'm just gonna save that for later. And as you can see, I sewed this side, the edges of the pockets shut here instead of gluing. A couple of these I did tape and glue. So I glued this and then just added some washi over the edge, and I didn't really like how that turned out. So some of these I sewed. Now, sewing with a machine is not necessary. You can do what I did here, and you don't even have to do the washi if you don't like how that looks. But I glued it first and then taped it. So again, as you'll notice as I flip through these, just to show you what kind of paper I used, they're not all in the same order, and I do that on purpose. I don't want it to be redundant. I don't want to have all the papers in the exact same order. But I used the same types of paper throughout. The only thing that I did exactly the same in each one is that the outer page or the cover for each signature is this cardstock scrapbook paper, and then the middle page of the signature is the map, and they are all like that. So the other papers are random, or at least they're supposed to be random, and then the middle is the map. And there's no exact, there's no right or wrong with this. If you are putting your signatures together and you want everyone to be the same, you know, if you want it to be scrapbook page, magazine, oh no, this is a book page, stationery, ledger, doily, sheet music, another book page, map. If you want all the signatures to have that same order, that is totally fine. Like I said, there's no right or wrong with this. I just prefer it to all be kind of random. But again, the only consistent thing that I like to do is have the outer and middle page of the signatures to be the same. So moving right along, those are the signatures. Now, before you sew, the next thing that you want to do is just make sure all these pages are in here and together nice and snug. You also, let's see, and then you can come in here with either your bone folder or a ruler, a remote control, the end of your scissors, and just make sure that these are nice and snug and creased. So this will probably end up being a 4-part series. So let me know how you are liking this series so far, if there's something else you would like to see. Now, I think this is stuck. Yes. All right. Now, the next thing you want to do, first I'll show you my tools. So this is bookbinding thread. Not technically, it's embroidery thread, but it works for bookbinding. You can also use twine, or you can get thread that is specific for bookbinding, and it's very similar to this in the ply and thickness, but it is waxed, so it I guess is a little easier to thread through your signatures. Then you'll need some kind of tool like this. This is called an awl. I think it's spelled AWL, and this is a bookbinding tool for poking the holes through your signatures and the spine. And then you will need some kind of threading needle. Thin sewing needles, like those might be a little small. You can use those, and I think I've actually used those for one journal that I made, because the holes, it was a really thin spine, and so the holes were closer together, so I didn't want to use a really thick one and have the holes tear, but it's a lot easier with a larger needle. And then you might need a ruler. This is just a bone folder. Like I said, you don't have to have that. You can use other tools. And then you'll need some kind of scrap paper, and this is what we'll do next. This is going to be our guide for our signatures. We're going to make a guide for where we want the holes. So basically what we want to do is create a grid with vertical and horizontal lines that intersect, and where they intersect is going to be where we place the holes for the signatures. So I'll show you how we get to this point. First, you want to fold your template in half, and then almost an inch from this end, so this is the top and bottom, so about just under an inch from there, we'll fold, and then halfway between these two folds we will fold again. So basically just bringing this end to where we folded here. So this gives us our 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 lines, our 5 horizontal lines, and this is where our holes are going to be. But now we need to make the vertical lines that intersect with these to make the holes evenly distributed along these lines. So this is a little trickier just because we are doing a 5-hole pamphlet stitch with 5 signatures, so it's an uneven number. Well, it's not necessarily being uneven that makes it a little trickier, because it's pretty easy with 3, but we're not going to get into the 3-hole pamphlet stitch because we're doing 5. So first we have the middle intersecting line, and now what we need to do, basically we need 2 more lines from this middle one. We need 2 more on either side of it. So first, let's fold in. Let me try to move out of the light so you can see what I'm doing. Now we want this to be as straight as possible, so either I it kind of curves a little bit here. Either I folded it unevenly or the paper is uneven. I think I folded it slightly off. Okay, and now halfway between these two folds, we want another fold. And I want all of my folds to go the same way so that this lays perfectly in the signatures when I'm sewing them in. So I basically want to just bring these two fold lines together so that this next fold is approximately halfway between the two. And then we'll do the same on this side. Now, I'm not providing measurements for this, you know, like, oh, I'm measuring this approximately, let's see, just for grins, what this is. It's about 1/2 centimeter, actually a little over 1/2 centimeter, or 1/4 inch. But I'm not giving measurements for everything because your book might be a slightly different size. You know, you might be working with a different sized cereal box, or a different number of signatures. So there's all kinds of factors that may vary. So there's not really, it doesn't have to be a specific size every time, because every book is going to be different based on your materials, the number of signatures you have, and depending on whether you're doing a 3 or 5 hole pamphlet stitch. So now we have our intersecting lines, and so I'm just going to mark with a pencil where they intersect, and that is going to be where we place the holes. So and actually these look a little uneven. I try to make it as even as possible. All right, so now we have 5 across and 5 down, because we have 5 signatures and they each have 5 pamphlet holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, just had to double check. So now this is going to be our template, and then you want to mark at the top, and there you go. Basically, I'm gonna clip this down. Let me just make sure it's still centered. Okay. Now we are going to start jabbing. The sewing really is fun, but getting this all to be even and neat is kind of a pain, just because I tend to be a little OCD about things like this, and it bugs me when things aren't in a straight line. I hope that's straight. Now, I don't think this is actually poking all the way through, but I find that it's easier to do it this way, and then I'll show you how to get it all the way through. So those are in. yeah, they didn't go all the way through. So now what we're gonna do is, don't wanna poke your finger because that would hurt, but we're gonna go back to where we made these marks and just bring it all the way through. There are certain tools that I would highly recommend, like an awl, because I don't know how else you would do this if you didn't have one. I guess you could use a thick needle, but it would hurt to push that down because you have to apply a lot of pressure. Like, this is 2 pieces of cereal box cardboard, so that's why having this handle on the needle is great. So yeah, I highly recommend getting one of these if you don't already have one. And like I said, Amazon has the bookbinding kits. I think they were, how much did I say a minute ago? I don't know. Around $10 maybe. Okay, now, do I want, I think I want black thread. Where's my black thread? Okay, I changed my mind. I'm gonna stick with the white. So I have black embroidery thread and I also have blue, and I wanted contrast here, but I didn't like the way the black and the blue looked with the cover, so I'm just gonna stick with this. It's not really stark white, it's slightly off-white, and I think it matches this well enough. So we find an end. Now, the next thing we are going to do is we're going to take our guide, and this is the top, bottom, this is the first signature, last signature. And I'm just going to put that there to hold this in place. And then for the signatures, for this part, you just take your awl and you want it to go in straight, not at an angle. Just be careful not to get your fingers. Again, I apologize for being so quiet. I'm just trying not to stab my finger. And I don't want this to be too crooked. I think some of the holes are already slightly crooked, but it'll look fine. But the more I talk, the more likely I am to make some kind of mistake. So I apologize. I'm not being antisocial. I'm just trying not to hurt myself because this is very sharp. Okay, so that's the first one. I think I am going to do all of the holes and then all of the sewing, just so that I don't keep going back and forth. It's kind of like when you're painting a house. I'd rather just, this is the more tedious part, kind of like in painting when you have to do like the base, along the baseboards, and then you paint the entire wall. Like, I would rather just do the tedious part first and then save the fun part for last. So I'm gonna just prepare all the signatures first and then we'll get on with the sewing. I have heard some people say that Not everyone likes the sewing part. I think it's fun because you're bookbinding, you're making a book. And so to me, it's very satisfying as a craft and a hobby. I think it's a very rewarding part of the process, because as I think I mentioned before that I love books and I love collecting books, and now that I've been making junk journals for a while, it makes me feel like I'm some kind of bookmaker. So to me, the sewing, this is all like really fun. Even this part, like the tedious part, like it's tedious, but it's a necessary step. So I hope you have as much fun with it as I do. Let me know in the comments, what's your favorite part of junk journaling? Is it the making the cover? Is it sewing in the signatures? Is it the embellishing? Is it once it's all done and you get to actually use it as a journal and you get to fill it up with all of your ephemera? Like, what's your favorite part of junk journaling? Let me know. I'm curious. Am I the only weirdo who actually likes doing this part? Okay, we're on 1, 2, 3. Yes, this is the middle signature. Again, if I go silent, it's because I'm hyper focused. Okay, all done with that. Now, like I said, this is the fun part. So, a needle, sewing thread. Let's see. Okay, so you want your thread to be 2 times plus the length of or height of your signature. So 2 plus extra. What did I do with my scissors? I'm a little jittery because it's been a while since I had breakfast and I had 2 cups of coffee. One was decaf though, and one was half calf, but still I'm like a little jittery. Maybe I need lunch. So we will bring this here to the middle of our signature. I like to have plenty of room here so that it doesn't keep coming out. And I'm just gonna grab a little piece of, oh wait, no, I have other tape in here. Where did that go? I just don't want it to, no, I'm not gonna use real tape. I don't want it to tear this page. And I know that washi will not tear. So I'm just gonna get a little piece so that it holds this down in the center. Okay, now we begin sewing. So you can start on the outside, but then, so you'll start and finish in the same spot, either inside or outside. But if you start the sewing from the outside, you'll have all the threads at the end hanging out. So then you can either tie those into bows, you can add beads to them, but I like to start from the inside so that all of my threads are concealed inside the book. Let me see. So we're gonna start in the middle hole. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're starting in the middle and bringing it all the way through. And then we're gonna go to the second from the top, which I can't even see on the outside because of the lace. Actually, this is gonna be tricky. Let me see, where are you? Can't actually see the hole. Just gonna poke. Dang it. Where are you? Right there. Okay. Okay. So we want it. This is gonna be tricky. I don't always put lace on the spine. So just keep that in mind. It definitely makes it a little trickier for threading or sewing your signatures. So because ideally you can just go in and out. Sorry if this is off camera or off frame. Okay, so basically you're just gonna go in and out, top to bottom. Oh, and it came out. Yeah, I definitely need lunch. I'm a little shaky. Okay, so we went from the inside to the outside. You want to pull this all nice and snug. So we went outside, back inside, and now we're gonna go back to the outside in the top hole, pull it through, pull it snug. Then we're gonna go back in the second to the top hole. Now this is a little, I probably should have poked the awl through a little bit more to make it easier to get this needle through. I didn't really take that into account. Okay. Ugh. Now, okay. Whew. Using a little bit of muscle here. So we went from the inside to the outside, outside in, inside back out. Now we came back up through this hole. We're gonna jump over the center hole and come down to the second from the bottom. And go back to the outside. And then back in, where are you? Back in through here. Okay. Then jump back up to this one. And lastly, we're going, oh, something's stuck. The last one we're gonna do is going back in through this middle hole, but as you come back through, so see how this thread is on this side of the thread that comes between these two signature holes. So as we come back up, you want this last thread to be on this side. So that takes some careful maneuvering. Okay. And then we will take up the washi. And tie it off. Now you can tie it in a bow. You can double knot it. I probably should have made it a little bit longer so it's easier to tie into a bow. So I'll keep that in mind for the next one. And there you go, we have our first signature in. And now we will move on to the next one. Okay, I'm back. That second signature was a little trickier because the holes that I originally made with the awl, I don't think were quite big enough. So I went back through the rest and just poked the awl through to make the holes a little wider and make it a little easier to get this needle through. So I did one more signature. Now we're on to signature number 3. So hopefully this will be a little more smooth for you to see. I hope this is long enough. Okay. We find our middle. Pull it through, and I like to tape this down again. Okay. I'll come over here to our signature. I think the reason it was a little tricky this time is because of this lace on the spine, so it was really hard for me to see where the holes were because of the lace. But now it should be a little easier. See, where are you? I think it's right here. Yep, so that's a lot easier. I just had it. There we go. My signatures are moving around. My pages, I mean. What is happening? Something moved around. I probably should be using these to keep everything in place. There we go. Yeah, it's a lot easier if you use some kind of clip to hold your pages in place. So again, we're just going in and out, or rather out and in, out and in. Always pull it nice and snug. Jumping back down here. Oh, I see my washi's coming up, but that's good because that means my thread is nice and snug. Jumping over the middle, second to the bottom. Probably there we go. Oh, that one was easy. Back in through here. snug. Back into the middle, or the second bottom. This is kind of loose, so let me see, jumped over. I like to pull them tight as I go. There we go. Okay, now back into the middle. It's a lot easier when I'm not filming because then I can hold it closer to my face and see a little bit better. Uh-oh, it came out. There we go. Okay, now before I tie this, I just want to make sure, yeah, see, some of this is a little loose, so I'm gonna go back. One of these threads. Let me see, where are you? With this being embroidery floss, one of these threads kind of came out or separated from the rest. Oh, there we go, I got it. Okay. So I'm just gonna pull this all. Let me see. Came in this way. In, out, in. I'm just trying to tighten all of this back up so it holds it nice and snug. I'm basically just tightening it the way I'm pulling on these threads in the same direction that they were sewn. Just to make sure they're all nice and snug, yeah. Okay. Do a nice little bow. Okay, now we have 2 more. So yeah, I had to do this last one off camera. And for the very last one, I am just going to make sure that all of these holes are visible from the outside. This lace is making it tricky. And it's also a lot easier to do when I'm not filming, because it's easier if I can hold it closer to my face. I'm not blind, it's just, you know, I have to make sure everything is in frame so that you can see it. So for the very last one, we're gonna get our thread. Most people say 2.5 times the length of your signatures, but I, for this, have been doing about 3, just because I want to make sure that I have enough to tie into a bow at the end. I think I already said that, but I'm hungry, and so I don't know what I've said or not said so far. I think I do want to get some actual bookbinding thread that's waxed, because this embroidery thread, it just, the plies come apart way too easily. So that's why it's easier with bookbinding thread, because it's easier to sew and not worry about the plies coming apart. Makes for a smoother process. Okay, so we're starting in the middle. We're going from the inside to the outside. Pull it all the way through. Then we're going from the outside, let me see, back to the inside. Inside. To the outside. I pull it snug along the way, but I do always give it one good tug at the end and make sure it's all nice and snug, because even if you pull it as you go, it still gets loose. So we're back to the inside, jumping over the middle hole, over the middle stitch, going back out through the second to last, second from the bottom, going back through, where are you? It's so hard to see. So what I had to do with this on that last signature, or the previous one, stick my awl through, and then follow the needle through, because I couldn't see where I was going. So that's just a little trick you can do if you have lace on your spine and you can't see the holes that you made. I apologize for the noise. My son is awake from his nap, so he's antagonizing the dogs. So now we're on the inside, going back to the outside. Almost done. Going back to the middle, and you want to come up on the other side from your starting thread. Okay. Now before I tie it off, I'm just going to make sure everything is nice and snug. So I just start pulling on these. To get them nice and tight so that your signatures don't wobble around. Basically just pull back through in the same direction that I sewed. So it's a little more taut. And now we tie it off. Okay, that is the last one. We have all of our signatures sewn in. Let's see how it looks. We did it, guys. Okay. So here's what we have. Now, something I noticed as I was sewing, what I probably could have done was make these signatures a little further apart, because I do have some more room here. But that's okay. It's totally fine. The spacing between the signatures, it looks even on the outside, and that's what I wanted. But there is some more room here, so I could have spaced those out a little bit more. And once again, I apologize for being so not talkative in this video. As I said before, I have to focus when I'm doing something like this, because the more I talk, the more likely I am to make mistakes. And so I didn't want to stab my finger or go into the wrong hole and have these be all going in and out the wrong way. So I had to focus. I hope you understand. I wasn't being antisocial. But on top of that, I am really hungry. It's been a while since breakfast, and I probably should have had lunch a couple hours ago. And I had 2 cups of coffee. Even though it wasn't a lot of caffeine, it still was like, you need to eat. So, so here are our signatures. So this is part 3. I think I said earlier in this video it would be 4 parts, but I think it'll actually be 5, because in the next video what we're gonna do is come back through and we're gonna add some pockets, some embellishments. What are embellishments and pockets? Well, here for example is a flower. So we're gonna come back through and add just some things to give some more interest to these pages. And then I have, let me see, I have some tags that we can divvy up through these signatures. Maybe some postcards. So we have embellishments, and I think this actually, like, tags actually count as like handmade ephemera. So we have some stuff like that to put in these signatures to decorate it some more. And so that will be the next video. And then I will do one final video. Let me see, this is 3, next one will be 4. So the decorating and embellishing will be the next video, number 4, part 4. And then I will do a 5th video, and that will be a final flip through once we get it decorated. So stay tuned. I'm gonna go eat some lunch. Stay fed and stay hydrated. Once again, don't do as I do as I say or recommend. I'm really happy with how this turned out. So we definitely have some room here to add some decorations and embellishments. But again, that will be in the next video. So I hope to see you there. I hope you're enjoying this series so far. Stick around and we'll see what this looks like.